Warning! This show contains truth, sarcasm, and opinions that might offend the fragile, the fake, and the fact-free. If you're easily triggered, still wearing a mask alone in your car, or think the government actually cares about you, this ain't your safe space. We don't do censorship, we don't do narrative-approved talking points, and we definitely don't do woke bedtime stories. So grab your coffee, buckle up, and get ready for a dose of red-blooded reality. Because this is Data and Dissonance. And the truth doesn't need a trigger warning.
It's day 7 of the shutdown, and Washington's acting like the world just stopped spinning, as if they ever did anything that kept it going in the first place. The White House blames Congress. Congress blames the White House. And meanwhile, the American people are stuck playing Shutdown Survivor DC Edition. Federal workers are furloughed, national parks are closed, and cable news anchors are foaming at the mouth trying to decide who to call the real extremist. Over at the Supreme Court, a new term kicks off. Because nothing screams justice for all like 9 people in robes deciding what you can say, own, or believe. And just to spice it up, the Trump administration drops a new bombshell. A compact for universities, telling woke academia it's time to earn their taxpayer funding or lose it. Welcome to Tuesday night, where the coffee's hot, the takes are hotter, and the truth burns brighter than a CNN meltdown. This is Data and Dissonance. All right, Patriots, it's Tuesday, the shutdown's still rolling, and DC is once again proving that common sense is the only thing not funded by your tax dollars. I'm Artie, your host, the guy who drinks too much coffee, talks too much truth, and somehow hasn't been fact-checked into oblivion. Yet. Now let's bring in the crew that makes this circus worth watching. First up, Brian, the man whose blood type is probably espresso and gunpowder. If outrage was cardio, this guy could outrun Gavin Newsom's hypocrisy. Then there's Rachel, our resident truth surgeon. She slices through media spin so cleanly even CNN would ask her for a Band-Aid. Calm, logical, and somehow still putting up with the rest of us. Next, Daniel, the guy whose conspiracy board could qualify as national infrastructure. He's the reason aluminum foil sales spike every election year, and honestly, he might be onto something. And rounding out the crew, Skylar, our progressive wildcard who's still trying to save the planet while surviving 3 conservatives and a host with trust issues. If optimism had a podcast, it'd sound like her until Brian starts talking. All right, teams assembled, caffeine's kicking, and we've got more fireworks than a 4th of July parade in Texas. Let's roll. All right, let's start with the obvious. It's week 1 of the government shutdown, and Washington's acting like someone unplugged the sun. Democrats are calling it economic terrorism. Republicans are calling it fiscal responsibility. And the rest of America is just calling it Tuesday. You've got federal workers furloughed, agencies dark, and the media crying harder than Nancy Pelosi at an open bar. But here's the real question, folks. Who's actually getting crushed here? Is this shutdown about principle, power, or pure political theater? So I'm throwing this one to the crew. 1 question each, no filters, no script. You've said before shutdowns can be a strategic reset. But with the White House digging in and the media spinning panic, are conservatives winning this round or just bleeding slow in public?
Listen, Artie, the shutdown's the only time we actually get a refund on stupidity. When the government stops spending for a few days, you can practically hear the country start breathing again. The left's acting like the sky's falling because a few bureaucrats had to stay home and miss their 5th diversity seminar of the week. Meanwhile, the working class, the people who actually make this country run, have been living in shutdown mode for years thanks to Washington's overspending and incompetence. Trump's not losing this round. He's forcing the swamp to show its hand. Every agency crying on camera right now is basically admitting they don't serve the American people. They serve themselves. And the media? They're just mad they can't call it racist yet because nobody's figured out how to blame it on white supremacy.
Yeah, you're right. CNN's probably workshopping the headline right now. Government shutdown disproportionately affects non-binary park rangers. Rachel, you're the one who usually brings reason to the table, so I'll ask it straight. Are we seeing real negotiation tactics here, or just DC elites using working-class Americans as poker chips while they argue about who's more patriotic on Twitter?
Honestly, Artie, it's a mix of both. There's strategy in every shutdown. They're not accidental, they're weapons. The question is always, who suffers more while the politicians posture? The sad truth is Washington treats real Americans like collateral damage. Whether it's a furloughed paycheck or a closed VA office, it's the same people who get burned every single time, and none of them sit on Capitol Hill. Shutdowns could be useful if they actually led to accountability or fiscal reform. But right now, they're just photo ops. Sound bites for social media warriors who don't care that families can't access their benefits. The elites play chess, and the rest of us are pawns. And I think people are finally starting to realize they're not even on the board.
Damn, Rachel. You just made more sense in a paragraph than Congress did in an entire fiscal year. We should put you in charge of budget talks and send the rest of them home permanently. Now, Daniel, you've been saying for days this shutdown isn't about budgets at all. You think there's a deeper play behind it. So what's your read? Distraction, setup, or another quiet power grab while everyone's watching the circus?
Oh, it's a setup, Artie, clear as day. Every time they shut it down, look where the money quietly moves while we're distracted by headlines. You think it's coincidence the Department of Energy and the FCC just paused operations while there's a massive cybersecurity upgrade happening behind the scenes. Follow the data, follow the contracts. It's all about shifting control from elected bureaucrats to unelected tech boards. This shutdown gives them the cover to reroute digital infrastructure and money flow without oversight. And when it's over, they'll tell us everything's modernized. Translation: more surveillance, less freedom. Every time the lights go out in DC, something ugly gets built in the dark.
So what you're saying is the government's pulling a turn it off and on again, except when it reboots, it's running spyware instead of Windows. Classic. All right, Skylar. You've got the progressive pulse here. You've said you actually support parts of the government staying shut down, at least until it starts serving regular people. But how do you reconcile that with the chaos it's creating for folks who need those services?
That's the part no one wants to talk about, Artie. The system fails either way. When the government's open, it's corrupt, inefficient, and captured by corporate lobbyists. When it's shut down, it exposes how dependent people have been forced to become on a system that doesn't work for them. I don't cheer the pain. I hate that families lose stability because politicians want camera time. But maybe this chaos shows people how broken the design really is. If anything good comes from this, it's realizing that America's safety net shouldn't depend on whether some millionaire in Congress feels like doing their job. People deserve better than political blackmail dressed up as democracy.
Well said, Skylar. It's the rare day when we all agree the system's broken. We just disagree on what hammer to use. All right, strong start, crew. Shutdowns, spin, and a swamp full of self-serving sound bites. But while Congress keeps playing chicken with your paycheck, there's another showdown heating up, and this one's wearing black robes. All right, crew, grab your gavels and your popcorn. The Supreme Court just kicked off its new term, and the docket looks less like law and more like cable news fan fiction. We're talking cases on LGBTQ rights, gun laws, redistricting, and, because irony's not dead, whether banning conversion therapy actually violates free speech. 9 people in robes are about to decide what 50 states full of voters couldn't, and half the country's already calling it the apocalypse. So here's the million-dollar question. Is this justice, or is it just politics in fancy Latin? Brian, you've never been shy about calling out activist judges. With this new term tackling so many culture war flashpoints, do you think the court's finally standing up for the Constitution? Or are they about to bend the knee to public pressure again?
Artie, I'll be honest, the Supreme Court's the last branch of government with a pulse, but lately it's been coughing up woke lung fluid. Half of these cases shouldn't even exist. You've got blue state attorneys general trying to legislate through lawsuits because they can't win in Congress. If the court stands firm, and I mean original intent, baby, then maybe we get a reminder that the Constitution isn't a choose-your-own-adventure book, But if Roberts goes soft again and starts playing both sides of history, we're one ruling away from drag queens teaching civics in the Senate chamber. The founders didn't write life, liberty, and whatever feels affirming today. They wrote law. The court either defends it or it dies in robes.
Dies in robes. Sounds like a CNN headline waiting to happen. Brian from Data and Dissonance calls for judicial apocalypse. Experts blame coffee. Rachel, you've always said the court's role isn't to pick a side, but to keep both sides honest. But with cases this politically loaded, can they really stay neutral anymore? Or has that ship already sailed?
It's already halfway to the horizon, Artie. The truth is, we've blurred the line between law and ideology for so long, nobody even remembers what neutral looks like. Every ruling is now a win or a loss for somebody's tribe, not a question of legal merit. The sad part? Americans trust the court less than ever, not because of what they rule, but because they've become characters in the same culture war story they're supposed to referee. What we need isn't blind loyalty to one ideology, it's humility. The court's power only works when the public believes it's about justice, not vengeance. Right now, it feels like 9 people deciding the morality of 330 million, and that's a dangerous place for any republic.
Couldn't agree more, Rachel. 9 people deciding the morality of 330 million sounds less like a court and more like Twitter with gavels. Daniel, I can practically hear your conspiracy board lighting up over there. Some folks are saying these cases are distractions from deeper plays. Executive overreach, digital surveillance rulings, you name it. What's your take? Coincidence or choreography?
Oh, it's choreography, my dude. The kind that'd make the CIA blush. You think it's random that these hot-button cases all landed together? No way. Every time there's a big docket like this, you can bet your morning coffee there's a major policy shift happening under the radar. This isn't just about what the court's ruling on. It's about what they're keeping us from watching. Watch the timing. While everyone's fighting about whether a state can ban gender clinics, global trade agreements and digital currency frameworks are sliding through without a whisper. It's the same play every cycle: distract the public with culture, consolidate control through economics. They keep us fighting about flags while they move the vault door.
Damn, Daniel, that's one way to make jury duty sound like a psyop. Remind me not to open your email attachments. Skylar, you're the one who's actually cheered some of these cases getting heard. You've said accountability in culture laws is long overdue. But what's your take? Is the court helping move progress forward, or are we just relitigating the same fights from 20 years ago?
It's both, honestly. The culture war never really ended. It just rebranded itself. Half the issues being argued right now are things that should have been settled decades ago, but we keep reopening the wounds because the system profits off outrage. Still, some of these cases matter deeply, especially for people who've been shut out of equal protection. The court's not perfect, but it's one of the few arenas left where the powerful sometimes get told no, if they can hold that line, if they can defend actual rights instead of political feelings. Maybe this term ends up being a win for regular people instead of another power shuffle.
Fair take, Skylar. Though every time someone says, the system profits off outrage, somewhere out there a CNN producer just gets a raise. All right, solid round, team. From robes to rhetoric, it's clear the courtrooms become the new campaign trail. All right, folks, we've covered the shutdown and the Supreme Circus. Now let's take a little field trip to America's ivory towers. The Trump administration just rolled out a new compact for universities, offering federal funding to schools that agree to scrap race and gender quotas, freeze tuition, and stop hiring based on identity politics. Supporters say it's about accountability and merit. Critics say it's about control and coercion. Either way, higher education just got a homework assignment it can't plagiarize its way out of. So here's the question. Is this a long overdue correction or a government takeover of thought itself? Brian, you've been shouting from the rooftops about cleaning house in academia for years. Is this Trump finally delivering that reckoning, or is it the start of another ideological tug-of-war?
Artie, this is the best thing to happen to higher education since coffee was invented. The universities have turned into indoctrination camps for the perpetually offended. You can't say, America's good without getting a lecture on microaggressions. You can't study history without being told everything's your fault if you were born white, male, or breathing oxygen wrong. What Trump's doing here is pure accountability. You want federal dollars? Fine. Act like an institution of learning, not a TikTok therapy session. Merit should matter again. Results should matter again. And if professors are crying because they can't teach Marxism between gender studies and drag brunch, they can learn to code. Ironically, for real this time.
Learn to code. I swear, Brian, if sarcasm were an export, you'd balance the trade deficit in a week. Rachel, I know you've said before that you support reform in education, but also warned about overreach. Does this compact strike the right balance? Or is Uncle Sam trading one form of ideology for another?
It's a tightrope, Artie. I agree the universities needed a reckoning. They've become echo chambers instead of arenas for debate. But when government funding comes with political strings attached, that's dangerous no matter who's in charge. What happens when the next administration flips the script and starts demanding climate pledges or inclusivity statements as a condition for funding? Freedom of speech means letting bad ideas die on their own, not killing them by decree. I like that this compact is calling out hypocrisy and corruption in higher ed. But we need to make sure the cure doesn't become another infection. The line between reform and restriction is thin, and once you cross it, academia stops being free thought and becomes state thought.
Damn, Rachel. That's the kind of answer that makes both sides squirm. You just ruined a dozen think tank talking points in one breath. Daniel, you've been saying this compact is about more than schools, that it's part of a bigger move to reset the narrative. What's your angle here?
You're damn right it is, Artie. This isn't just about college campuses. It's about control of future narratives. Whoever controls the universities controls the flow of information, the cultural direction, and the next generation of leaders. The left figured that out decades ago. They captured the schools, rewired the curriculum, and weaponized education to shape everything from media to medicine. Now Trump's flipping that script, taking the ideological fortress and turning it back toward free thought. But don't be fooled. The other side won't just sit back. They'll push private donors, corporate sponsorships, and shadow programs to keep the woke machine running underground. We're not watching education reform. We're watching a war for the American mind.
And somewhere right now, a sociology professor just fainted onto their copy of the Communist Manifesto. Skylar, I can already feel you rolling your eyes from here. You've said before that these kinds of reforms just politicize education even more. Is that what you see happening here?
Exactly, Artie. You can't claim to defend free thought by telling universities what they can and can't teach. That's not freedom. That's control wrapped in patriotism. Yes, higher education needs reform, but it needs it from within, through accountability, not punishment. The danger here is that students won't learn how to think. They'll learn what to think, just from the other direction. I get the frustration. I really do. The ideological imbalance on campuses is real, but replacing one dogma with another doesn't fix the problem. It just changes the color of the uniform. Education should challenge power, not become its mouthpiece. And if both sides keep weaponizing it, we're going to lose a whole generation of critical thinkers who can't tell propaganda from principle.
Fair point, Skylar. Though I'd argue half the campuses already graduated from propaganda to performance art a long time ago. All right, solid takes all around. Whether you see this as liberation or legislation, one thing's for sure. America's classroom just became the next battlefield in the war of ideas. From shutdowns to courtrooms to classrooms, it's clear. The country's not divided left versus right anymore. It's divided between those who want freedom and those who want control. Man, what a ride tonight. From a government that can't govern, to a Supreme Court trying to referee a moral cage match, to universities that forgot they're supposed to educate. It's a miracle the country still gets up in the morning and goes to work. What we heard tonight wasn't just political noise. It's the sound of a nation trying to remember what it stands for. We can joke all day, and we do. But deep down, every one of these stories points to the same truth. Somewhere along the way, leadership stopped leading and started performing. The shutdown shows us how little Washington cares about consequences. The court shows us how every ruling now doubles as a campaign speech. And academia? That's just where ideology goes to retire with tenure. So let's bring it home. Let's take it from the marble halls and news feeds back to real life. All right, crew, let's close it out the right way. Final thoughts, one by one.
You know, Artie, I keep hearing people say the system's broken. But the truth is, it's working exactly how the elites designed it. They've built a machine that feeds on crisis. The shutdowns, the court battles, the campus chaos. None of it's random. It's all meant to wear people down, to make them feel like their voice doesn't matter. But it does. It always has. This country wasn't built by bureaucrats or billionaires. It was built by people who refuse to shut up and comply. We've got a duty to stop letting the same broken institutions gaslight us into silence. Whether it's standing up at the ballot box, the school board, or just in conversation with your neighbor. We fight back one truth at a time. They can shut down the government all they want, but they'll never shut down the American spirit.
I think what tonight really shows is that division has become the business model of modern America. Every shutdown, every court case, every cultural fight, it all gets packaged, monetized, and sold back to us through outrage and algorithms. But most people aren't extremists. They're tired, they're frustrated, and they just want stability and honesty. We can't keep letting political tribes define us. At the end of the day, the truth doesn't belong to one party or ideology. It belongs to those willing to face it. And maybe that's where we start fixing things. Not with louder arguments, but with quieter courage.
Every time we peel back the layers, it's the same pattern: distraction and control. Shutdowns are theater, the courts are the script, and the universities are the stage crew, making sure the lights never shine where they shouldn't. But here's the twist. People are waking up faster than the system can reprogram them. They can hide information, rewrite history, manipulate headlines, but they can't kill curiosity. That's what terrifies them. Once people start questioning everything, the illusion collapses. And when that happens, the whole game changes. The truth doesn't need a majority, it just needs momentum.
What I take away from tonight is that we're living through a tug-of-war between control and compassion. Yes, the system is broken. Yes, the power players manipulate chaos to stay on top. But the answer isn't just burning it all down, it's rebuilding with empathy. Accountability matters, but so does humanity. You can't fix corruption by becoming cynical. You fix it by staying engaged, informed, and unwilling to look away. If we want a future worth fighting for, we've got to stop cheering for our side and start cheering for integrity. That's what real patriotism looks like. Loving your country enough to demand it do better.
Man, every time I hear you guys close out, it reminds me why this show exists. We joke, we roast, we rant. But under all of it, there's a heartbeat. America's not dead. It's just dizzy. It's been spun around by liars, leeches, and late-night pundits who think freedom's a brand, not a birthright. The shutdown, the Supreme Court, the universities, they're all just mirrors showing us what happens when power stops answering to people. But the beauty of this country, we don't stay down. We rebuild, we rethink, and when we're pushed too far, we roar back louder than ever. So keep your coffee strong, your convictions stronger, and remember, the loudest truth doesn't come from the podium. It comes from the people. Remember to speak truth, stir thought. Tonight's episode is brought to you by the Caleb Rourke thriller series, The Covenant Protocol and The Prophet Directive. 2 books that remind you what happens when artificial intelligence meets government corruption and human greed. If you think Washington's crazy now, wait till you see what's coming in Book 3, Black Echo Rising. available December on Amazon. And of course, powered by Data and Dissonance Coffee, the official fuel of free thinkers and freedom lovers. We've got High Lakes Light Roast, bright, citrusy, and smoother than a White House press dodge. Rock Creek Medium Roast, balanced, bold, and sweet enough to remind you freedom still tastes good. Bitterroot Dark Roast, strong, unapologetic, and guaranteed to wake you faster than a Biden press conference blunder. Plus, the full Data and Dissonance merch lineup. Hats, mugs, hoodies, bumper stickers, and more. Because nothing says speak truth, stir thought, like wearing it proudly while the neighbors stare in confusion. Grab yours now at dataanddissonance.printify.me and help support the show, the mission, and my caffeine addiction.